Welcome to the Sales Influence Podcast, where we talk about finding the why in how people buy. I'm your host, Victor Antonio. Thank you for joining me. I always appreciate you lending me your ears. Anyway, so I'm doing this interview yesterday. Here it comes. It's a good interview, fantastic interview. And the guy says, Victor, we need to teach people how to overcome their fears. Now, you've heard that many times, right? Overcome your fears. We need to make people or teach people how to overcome their fears if they want to be successful. To which I said, no. I'm going to give you a different concept. I don't like overcoming your fears. I don't like telling people, hey, you need to overcome your fear. No. As a good leader, as a good manager, it's not about showing them how to overcome their fear or motivating them to overcome their fear. Here's the difference. You have to learn how to reduce the fear. Now, this is key. Overcoming the fear seems like, something I have to overcome, like I have to get over something that's pretty big for me to get there and do what I want to do. But you don't have to overcome your fear to be successful. You just have to reduce it to the point where you feel comfortable stepping right over it. This is important. It's a very subtle shift in language, but very powerful. The word overcome just brings to mind, has too many connotations of, struggle, effort, exertion, failure, penalties of failure. That overcome, it's a heavy word. It's a heavy word. And that word may scare people off. I don't know how to overcome that. I don't know how to overcome my situation. I don't know how to overcome X. I don't know how to overcome my fear of cold calling. I don't know how to overcome, asking for the order. Well, you don't have to overcome. You don't have to overcome. You just have to reduce the fear to a point where you feel comfortable, I'll say it again, stepping over it. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're afraid, for example, cold calling, I can talk to you about how you need to overcome your fear of cold calling. Or I can work with you on reducing your fear. For example, instead of saying you can do it, people have done this before, you can overcome your fear. It's just a matter of grabbing the phone, getting on there, calling the person up. It's all about the law of averages. I can do all that. But what if I just talk to you and try to reduce your fear and say something like this? I said, look, in order to sell, can we agree that we're going to have to make some phone calls? You would probably say yes. And then I said, we expect you to make about 50 calls a day. How do you feel about that? You may say, man, that's a lot, Victor. I don't know if I can do 50 calls, Victor. That's just too much. How about 40? Can you do 40? Say, I don't know. 40 sounds it's just too much. How about 30? Okay, 20. How about 20? I know we can do 20. No, just, I'm not comfortable calling strangers. I'm just not used to cold calling. I don't know what to say, what to do. Okay, so do you think you can make time for at least one call a day? Now, what do you think most people are going to say? Yeah, I think I can do one call a day, right? Let's say you're an entrepreneur, you're at home. What if I just say, how about one call a day? You say, I can do one call a day. What if I teach you what to say? What if we write out a script together and I'll tell you what to say, and whether the person, accepts a meeting with you or not a big deal, right? All I want you to do is make one call a day. Could you do that? If I give you the script, could you do that? And if I told you that the outcome didn't matter, it does, but if you don't get the meeting, that's okay. You at least made the one call. Can you do that? The majority of people in sales, and I'm talking 99%, will probably say, yeah, I can do that. And all I did was, by reducing the number to a ridiculous number like one call a day, which is not a good number, by the way, but one call a day, it's a start, giving you the script, telling you what to say, right, and even how to say it, and then saying it's okay if you don't get that meeting on the first call. What I've done is reduce the fear of making that call. I didn't teach you about overcoming cold calling. I reduced the fear to the point where you're comfortable doing that. Let me say it again. I reduced the fear to the point where you're comfortable doing that little bit right there. Now, this is also important when you're selling to your customers. Many customers have this fear And your job is to help them overcome their fear, right? That's what you're being taught. Help them overcome their fear. What if you reduce their fear? How can you reduce your customer's fear? What would you say to them? Imagine saying something like this. You're selling a software product, right? So, Mr. Customer, here's how it works. The first step is A. And A just requires you to do this. Do you think you can do that? He says, I don't know. That might be difficult, Victor. Well, we can also do B, which is simpler, and you can do this within 4 hours. I don't know if we still have the time. I said, look, I get it. I understand. Busy time. Here's what I know we can do together. What if you can just give me 30 minutes for one day in 1 week, just 30 minutes a week. That's all I'm asking, 30 minutes a week. And I know that within a month or two, we can have this thing revved up and running. Can you at least do that much? What do you think the customer is going to say? Well, yeah, I got 30 minutes, Vic. That's not a big deal if we can walk through it like that. And all I did was reduce their fear of a negative outcome. This is what customers are looking for. Now, I'm being oversimplistic here, but you get the idea. What can you do in your conversations with your clients or prospects that reduces their fear to the point they're going, you know what, let's do it? Because in many cases, in the majority of cases, I think it has nothing to do with price, quality, service, and all the above. It has everything to do with, I'm a little bit afraid, and I need you to simplify this so I'm not so afraid. So what can you do? I want you to think about your product, your service that you offer. And as you're talking to the customer, as you're gliding in for the close, right? As you're kind of cruising in for the close, what can you tell them to reduce their fear? Not overcome their fear, reduce it. In other words, baby steps. That's another way of looking at it. What baby steps can we take? And you know what? Can you walk a mile? No. Can you walk half a mile? No. Can you just walk 100 feet? Yeah, I can do that, Victor. It's kind of like that. Think about your product or service and how could you position, Mr. Customer, what we want to do is we want to take your current database and basically move it over into our new database over here, from database A to database B. Now, the customer might freak out, says, no, that looks like a Herculean task. So, no. Okay, well, one way to do this. Why don't we just start with looking at your current data and basically beginning just to format the data. And that'll take about an hour to figure out if everything's in the right place and it's formatted correctly and we have the right parameters and variables, blah, blah, blah. Can we just start there? Customer's going to say, yeah, I think we can start there. I mean, think about this. Even if you have an existing customer that you're trying to get them to try something new, you can use this. If you have an employee that isn't doing what you want them to do, whether it's cold calling or something else in production, whatever it may be, how can you break it down, reduce the fear so much so they can step right over it and they'll say, yeah, I can do that. If you can do that, you are a great salesperson. And if you're a manager, you are great at managing people's expectations, because once you can reduce that fear, people are more likely to take action. So here's what I want you to do. Think about a product or service you're selling and ask yourself in those conversations, in those moments where you feel the customer pulling back a little bit, how could you reduce their fear by simplifying the approach or what it's going to take to actually make that change? Do that, and you will see a difference in the amount of yeses you will get. And that is it for the Sales Influence Podcast. Don't forget to leave me some feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube. Always look forward to hearing from you guys. I really do appreciate when you lend me your ears. Also, check out my Sales Velocity Academy. You know the deal. We got courses, we got books, we got worksheets. Great stuff. If you want to sell more faster, if you want to increase your sales ability, go to salesvelocityacademy.com. Lastly, I want to thank you for listening. This is Victor Antonio, always reminding you, selling ain't hard when you know how. Take care. Hi, I'm Victor Antonio. I'm an author, sales trainer, and keynote speaker. I'm often asked, what makes a great speaker? Is it someone who delivers real content that the audience can use? Is it someone who engages the audience so they're part of the learning experience? Or is it someone who can motivate an audience to push them beyond their comfort zone and discover new abilities? The answer is yes. But the most important thing to remember is that I'm not there to look good. I'm there to make my client look good. Simply put, it's never about me, and it's always about them.